Kerri, I love to eat Chinese food in restaurants, but I've always wondered how their coating for the chicken or the pork, whichever it happens to be, is so crisp, because when I make it, it tends to get soggy after it's cooked. And you've developed the secret, right?
That's right. That's right. There's a trick to it. It is a combination of flour and cornstarch with a little baking soda.
And that's what you've mixed here.
Yes.
So the cornstarch sounds like, because I don't have that in my recipe, I bet that's the secret ingredient?
Yes, it is. It is. And it gives a real light crust to the chicken, and it helps it crisp better, too.
Okay, and you're going to prepare this, and then we're actually going to make some sweet and sour chicken.
Yes, that's right. What we do is add 1 egg to a ½ cup of water, mix slightly, and then add that to our cornstarch, flour, baking soda mixture. Stir well.
And of course, cornstarch keeps something, it forms a nice paste.
Exactly.
Instead of making more of a batter.
That's right.
Well, how long did it take you to develop this, or figure out the secret?
Almost 5 years, believe it or not. We kept experimenting and experimenting until we got it right.
Well, that's what's so nice about the cookbook you have, is that you've done all of the hard part for us. We can enjoy just the recipes and knowing that they'll turn out perfectly every time.
That's right, that's right. And we've tried to eliminate the guesswork. Chinese food tends to be rather complex. But if you take the preparatory steps and prepare all of the food in advance so that you can simply be heating it, basically.
Cut down the time.
Exactly. It makes it much easier. We get that as lump-free as possible. Chicken has been marinated in soy sauce and ahi mirin, which is a sweet cooking rice wine. Simply add it to the batter. Don't worry about it.
Now, if we haven't found those ingredients maybe in our local markets or something, are there substitutions we can use, or are they absolutely vital?
They're not absolutely vital. You could substitute a white wine, and soy sauce is readily available. This particular kind is light soy sauce, and it has a lower salt content.
So people
we prefer
cutting down that sodium.
Exactly. And this is a deep fryer.
Okay, so we're going to actually deep fry this rather than in a skillet.
That's right. And simply add it.
And you're putting all the batter and everything in together.
Because this makes the crispness to the chicken. And this is a special deep fryer that has a rotating basket in it, and it complicates this dish just slightly because the chicken, if it is not divided quickly, will tend to cling to the bottom of the basket. So simply
But it's also
stir.
nice because it does rotate. Once you get it in there, it really helps you then, doesn't it?
Exactly, it does. And this particular deep fryer with the rotating basket will take the ingredients in and out of the oil, so it gets an especially crisp crust. But any deep fryer can achieve the same results.
Now, if people don't have a deep fryer, can they use a deep pan or if even a skillet if they need to?
Yes.
Or a wok?
Or a wok.
Okay.
Woks work well. The main trick is to turn the deep fryer, if you have an electric one, up to a high enough temperature so that when you add that quantity of food, it does not cool down too quickly.
That wasn't a large amount to be adding, wasn't it?
Yes. Now we'll let that fry.
Okay.
And what we have here is a mixture of green onion, green pepper,
This
red
is the
pepper.
pretty part of the dish.
Exactly. And pineapple. And this has been sprinkled slightly with some soy sauce. And basically, we
You're
bring
just
it
going
over.
to saute it, because that's one thing I've always noticed in Chinese cooking is the vegetables are still crisp. And they're not overcooked like we tend to do sometimes.
That's right. And we simply want to stir quickly, just like a stir fry. You will notice at times that green vegetables will get even greener and have a more appealing color when they've been stir-fried slightly.
So the flavors are and as well as the colors are actually enhanced.
Exactly. And we're wanting to heat this through. We don't actually want to wilt the onion. We simply want to heat through, and we will let that heat. What we have here is a pre-prepared sweet and sour sauce that I have gotten ready.
And what all have you put in this?
This is a mixture of brown sugar, cornstarch, some ginger powdered, and it has red and green onion in it, and also some garlic and vinegar and pineapple juice.
Okay.
And it probably only cooks for about 3 minutes, and the cornstarch causes the mixture to thicken.
Makes more of a glaze, really, than a sauce, doesn't it?
And it's very visually appealing.
It certainly is.
And let's check on our chicken, see how it's progressing. We may stir it just slightly to assure that the
This is
chicken on the
probably
bottom-
one of those recipes that people say, oh, I'm sure it's not much different from the one I make, and then once they try it, they realize what they've missed when they've made their own sweet and sour batter before.
Exactly, exactly, because it does make a tremendous difference. There's a crunchiness, as you mentioned, that many of the Chinese food restaurants are able to achieve that we don't often replicate at home. That's nicely heated, so we simply add the sweet and sour sauce.
Where did you come up with all of the 400 plus recipes that are in your cookbook?
Well, my husband and I traveled the entire country for almost 3 years, and we are avid eaters and avid cooking hobbyists, and we love to cook. The recipes are original. We've adapted all of them. We would often take, for example, in this recipe, it's the marriage of about 6 sweet and sour recipes.
The best of each.
Exactly. And whatever elements were most appealing were what we used. Now we simply let that drain.
This is draining, and that is important. People think that they can't eat fried food, but if it's cooked in the correct oil, and then if there's thorough draining, it can be acceptable in most diets.
That's right. I think one of the biggest tricks is to get the oil hot enough so that the food doesn't absorb the grease.
That's a good point.
And we've permitted this to drain. We'll turn this off. Drain thoroughly.
This makes a large quantity. What would you say this recipe would serve?
Well, usually we make it for
6 or
4 people.
4?
But we serve generously.
Well, I was thinking maybe 6 or 8, but it looks like it makes a lot.
Yes. We've got a little there and a mistake.
We'll eat
We
those
will
later.
hide it, won't we? And we can turn our burner off.
So now you're just combining. There's really no more cooking to this. It's just a blending of all of the ingredients.
That's right. And now we want to coat the chicken completely and break it up into bite-sized pieces and simply fold over. And it's important to serve this dish relatively rapidly because once it's mixed with the sweet and sour sauce, it has a tendency to lose its crispness. Not to the degree that a flour-based batter would, but it still can.
You just made a nice big bed of rice, and this is what you're serving it with.
That's right.
Shall I scrape this out
Please
for you?
do. It's a very heavy pan.
Well, I still think this serves more than 4.
Yes, I think you may be right.
Even as good as it is.
And that's a generous.
And when you do add the rice, that extends the recipe as well.
Yes, it does. And there we are.
And I noticed with the vegetables that you chose are so colorful that it really does make the final dish eye-appealing, as well as I'm sure it's going to be very tasty.
Yes, yes, it's a very pleasing dish.
Well, thank you for sharing that secret with us, and I'm sure it's one that we can adapt to our own recipes if we have our own sweet and sour sauce, but cooking the chicken or the pork this way would be the key to it.
Yes, it would.
Thank you so much, Kerri, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Sheryl.